Weather's pretty interesting today. It's like a mix of overcast and sunny. It's kind of nice because it's not super hot out because the sun hasn't just been baking all day, but it's not like overcast and gloomy. So today we're gonna be putting a custom fuel system in this thing. It's real baller. I can't wait to show you guys. We got some baller stuff for this thing. So I need to run to the parts store. I've been tinkering with the Subaru and I've been messing with the boost on it. I gotta turn the boost up and it's way better. And then I'm working on getting the factory boost controller to work. I just gotta route it right. So we'll take this and I'll show you guys how it drives now. It's pretty freaking quick. That was like 15. Guys going slow, sorry. Feels good though, feels really good. Like it gets down now. Like I said, we should be 17 to 19 with this turbo and this tune once we get the factory boost controller working. So it should be a decent bit faster from where it's at now too. Spins all four on the driveway. I mean, obviously, but it feels so cool to spin all four tires because it's like you're accelerating but the tires are spinning. It's so dope, man. I really like this thing. I can't wait to get it fully dialed in, but right now we gotta work on the RX7. So anyway, just want to show you guys what it's like with 14-15 psi. Okay, Subaru test mission done. RX7 down, Miata's outside out of the way, table's cleaned off. We have our beautiful boxes. Let's see what's inside. Man, every time I don't like unbox stuff on camera, I really wish I did, especially right now because whew. We got our normal D-Work stuff. We've got our lines and fittings. If you guys saw the LS Miata build, we use this stuff on our fuel system. We used all D-Work stuff, but we also use these fittings on our high pressure side of our dry sump system because I love them so much. I've tried so many different brands of fittings and I've never found any to be this nice. These are absolutely amazing quality. So all of our lines and stuff, we've got two D-Works 400 pumps, a 300 in-tank pump, regulator, pressure gauge, injectors. I love how they tell you each injector, specific serial number to the injector, their flow and everything. So you know exactly what injector flowed what. So sick. And obviously you know that they're matched together. Fuel filter housing, and then they got two new items that they came out with that are freaking sick. So they came out with fuel rails. So excited about this. These are amazing. Not only are they super high quality, like obviously everything else from D-Works, if you've dealt with any D-Works stuff, you know that, but they added a lot of cool features. So they put 8th MPT fittings into each one. So each one you have two, so you could run a fuel pressure gauge like that, or a fuel pressure sensor and log your fuel pressure. I see a lot of the higher horsepower guys doing that because if they're dropping off fuel pressure, you know, they could be adding more and more time on the injector and the car's leaning out. And you know, if it leans out one good time, you're gonna blow it up, especially at high power, high boost level. So super important. So it's really cool that all that's integrated. You don't have to buy some fitting to get the 8th MPT deal. Like it's all built in. There's also a 3/8 MPT thing to do what do they call that? Fuel pressure something. It basically evens out the pressure between the two rails. So if you're running returnless, because these are LS1, LS6 rails. So if you're running returnless on like a Corvette or something like that, without your factory fuel system, it helps even out the pressure. We're gonna be running return style because we've got our own regulator and all that stuff. But anyway, really hyped on these. Coolest thing to me, it includes this crossover line with their fittings and their line. So on my LS Miata, I had bought a fuel rail kit and I hated this line. It was so jank. So I ended up making one. I had a couple leftover fittings when I was doing the rest of the fuel system and I ended up making my own line just like this. So it's so cool that it comes with it. Because, oh God, every one of these that I've seen, every one of these crossover lines is just junk. Like look at this one. Look at how tight. It's a crushed radius, tiny. This line is like just, I mean, it's just garbage. It's terrible. I don't trust that at all. So cool that they did that. They included, I mean, pretty much like, I absolutely love D-Works stuff. A lot of you guys probably already know this, but I've had such good luck with it that anything they make is what I'm gonna run. There's just no other substitute or option. If they make it, I'm gonna run it. So I'm so stoked they've been improving and expanding their product line. So this is the coolest thing. Oh man, I saw pictures, renders of this thing, getting it in my hands. Total game changer, totally different thing. Look at this beast. So this is a 5.5 liter surge tank. So this is gonna fit 3 D-Works 400 pumps. We're only running 2 because we don't need that crazy level. I mean, for example, the Miata's running a 340 vehicle-specific pump, and it makes almost 400 on E85. So can you imagine 3 400s? Like, I mean, pretty much whatever your power goals are, this thing's gonna work for it. This thing is really cool for me, specifically for 2 reasons. So 1, if you want to run multiple pumps, this is the way to go, right? 2, though, when you're drifting, your fuel in your tank is sloshing around. And what'll happen is your stock pickup pump will not be in fuel, suck up air, and then starve the engine of fuel. We have that issue a lot on the Z's. They're really bad about it, where you'll be drifting and the car will just like fall on its face and straighten out. It's super sketchy, because if you're leading and somebody's right on your door and your car cuts out and you straighten out, like, they're just gonna slam into you. We've done it before. So fuel control is really, really important. So what this does is you have your in-tank pump, but all it does is fill this thing up. So this thing's always full of fuel. So if this gets starved of fuel because you're running a little low or it just sloshes too much, this has fuel in it. So by the time this thing's back in the fuel, it can fill it back up before it runs low in this, because it's 5.5 liters. So you've got plenty of fuel to last you a bit if this thing starves. So that is the other benefit, on top of the fact that obviously you can run more pumps. What's so cool to me about this is something, the part you don't see. So like, clean and classy on the outside, and then freaking beautiful orange anodized on the inside. And I really like this design. So it's got these O-rings and the fuel pump slide in here. Very, very clean, very elegant design. They also come with these reducer sleeves. So if you're running like 300 pumps, let's say you have another search tank with 300 pumps in it, you can just run them in this search tank. So anyway, I'm freaking blown away by the quality of this stuff, especially this thing. This thing is epic. So this is really important to me because I want to ensure that our fuel system is not a limiting factor. Just like the clutch, I want to make sure that that is not a problem. So I want to figure out what the limit of a stock block is drifting turboed, right? Because people do it drag racing, but I want to see what that's like drifting, banging off limiter, you know, constant heat and all this stuff. See how it handles it, but I don't want it to be like, oh, we blew up 2-3 motors because we're running out of fuel, you know? So I want to make sure the fuel system is dialed. So that's why we went a little overboard, a little over the top. I mean, you can't really ever go over the top with the fuel system. Fuel is like, fuel and oil are your lifeblood for your engine. So if you have good fuel pressure, good fuel, you know, going through your injectors and then into your engine, and good oil pressure, your motor's probably gonna be okay. It's pretty much, if you lose either of those 2 things, is when you start breaking stuff. So anyway, long-winded, I'm just really excited about this stuff. I just can't wait to get it on the car. It's so nice though, I feel bad putting it on this car, I'll be honest. But my plan is, once I'm done with this thing, I'll put a basic fuel system back in it, take that system and put it on my next Turbo LS project, because I've got an end-game Turbo LS vehicle I want to build. Well, first step, let me figure out where I'm gonna mount the tank. So I need to lift the thing up, figure out where I'm gonna run my lines, and then we'll know where we're gonna mount our tank. Sorry for the rain noise, Florida just doing Florida things. So I went ahead and put this trans mount in to get a better idea of where I can route the line. So I really wanted to run them in the trans tunnel, but I've never seen the trans in this car, nor would I even remember what it looked like. So I don't know how much room I'm gonna have up here around the bell housing to get the line through. So I might just run them where you would normally run them, down on the frame rail. It looks like this is bashed in for the header. So if that's the case, then that means, you know, there's a decent bit of room. I just hate running fuel lines next to hot exhaust stuff. But I mean, I guess we'll be changing all that anyway. So I don't know, man. I don't know. Yeah, I guess I'm gonna run them on this side, because when I turbo it, I'm gonna go down pipe this way to avoid the steering shaft. So I think that makes the most sense. I want to start back here with the surge tank though. I want to get all of that done first. I just wanted to get an idea where I was going to run the lines, that way I knew where to mount the tank. I don't want to mount it like to one side and then not run the lines that way. So start digging into it. So before we mount the tank, I want to get it all assembled. So I want to get my pumps in here with my hoses and my wiring hooked up and all of that, and get the tank fully assembled and ready to go, and then we can start mounting it and start making our lines and get our stock pump in and all the other good stuff that we got to do. That's crazy. Look, they just literally slide in, and I mean, ugh. The whole mount design makes installing this so easy. You just like slide the hose down and then slide the pump into the hose and you're good. I'm gonna cut this one a little shorter to bring the pump down a little further so these don't interfere. Good enough. Now we just need to install our cap. Ta-da! Pumps are in. Good to go. So now I need to wire them up. So I think I'm going to wire one to each of these, and then that way I can run power to each one individually, like power and ground, so that each have their own power source. I think that's the way to go. I don't know. We'll gotta get our wires cut, our terminals on, so we'll do that next. But look at this. If anything in my life that I've ever owned has made me a baller, it's this. This is like the most baller thing I've ever had. This is so sick. I know, I'm a nerd. Got the wiring done. God, this is so nice. All right, anyway, I'll stop bragging about this thing. I think we're done. I think we're ready to put it in the actual tank itself. I think. I feel like I'm missing something because that just felt pretty easy, but I think we're good. Just look, would you just look at it? Would you just look at it? Okay, I'm done. Put it in the tank. Oh, I had to shorten up where the pump mounts. I should have probably thought about that, huh? It's pretty obvious that they go further up, but I didn't even think about it. Easy enough, though. All right, pumps are in. So now we're gonna go ahead and find and put our fittings in. Actually, I'm gonna clean up my workbench so we don't have a mess going on, and then we're gonna find and install our fittings. Yeah, let's get this thing in the car, then we can start making our lines. What's up, Sans? The viewers missed you. Yeah, they did. I know. Yeah. They say you don't hang out in the shop enough anymore. Is it just too far of a walk for you now? Well, I need you to come supervise this project. Now, I don't want to mess this up. Got a lot of nice parts to put on this thing. I don't want to do a bad job, so I need your supervision, all right? You think you can make some time? Yeah, you can make some time? Thank you. That means a lot. Let's get to work. All right, well, we had to take a little break from this guy to get some work done on the truck and went to an event and all that stuff. So now we're back to work. We're back to work. We're going to get this done. So we've got the surge tank assembled. We're ready to put it in the car, start making our lines and all that good stuff. So let's do it. Let's get this thing down. Plus, I need to finish this because the Miata is inoperable after the drift event. Power wires like slamming against the starter and trying to run it, and there's a stuck caliper, a couple other things. So we need to fix that thing. Oh, and I broke my handbrakes. I need to redo that. I also want to do the electric power steering and just sort it out because we're going to be taking it to Texas and then the very next weekend up to Grid Life. So we need to make sure it is super dialed and it can handle back-to-back weekends of like full-on lots of thrashing. You know, I'm hoping it can, but you never know what's going to happen. So I don't want to miss Grid Life. So we're not gonna have much time in between to fix it. So we gotta try to fix everything we can think of now. But anyway, off topic. Let's get this thing down, get back to work on it. Another thing we're gonna have to do to this thing is fix this wiring. Like, it's got like this 4 gauge, maybe not even 4 gauge, like 8 gauge ground cable, 6 gauge. And then it's got this power wire through the circuit breaker that I had one of these in the Miata and it just didn't work half the time. So anyway, we got to work on that. And the chassis wiring's not terrible, I don't think. I don't know why this light's hanging down here, but put that bad boy back. Boom, fixed. You see that? Getting work done, son. Okay, so we need to figure out where it's just kind of like uneven everywhere. Like we go there, we could put a little spacer. Oh, we have to put a spacer there and there. I don't like that. Couldn't reach that. Oh yeah, there we go. Oh, but then we're not over that. If I could flatten this out some, we could get this down flush and this almost flush. Let's mark that, try to hammer it down. So this is the area that we need to clearance. Close your ears. That's pretty solid. We're flush all the way around. All right, let's drill our holes. All right, I'm gonna measure and make sure it's not crooked. I don't wanna mount it crooked. So the tank is pretty far down from here, from these two, but I can't feel all the way over, but it seems like it's gonna be real close to these. So we'll try to get a riv nut in without drilling through, because this is like a plate and then there's the bottom part. We'll see if we can get a riv nut in without going through both. Oh yeah, we should be good. Should definitely be good. Okay, cool, that makes it easy. I've made the mistake of drilling through gas tanks before. It is not fun. Not fun. I think she's secure. Check it out. Freaking surge tank. Absolutely beautiful surge tank at that. Okay, so now we need to take this plate off completely, get our pump assembly out so we can swap our new pump in and get our fittings on that are gonna go in and out from there to here, and then start making our lines. Let's do it. These lines are not in the best shape. Jesus. If you have a stuck line, give it a twist. Almost always does the trick. You can pry on it and do everything and not move, and then you give it a little twist and she'll move right out of the way. Just, you gotta like break that seal that develops over time. Almost forgot one. Well, did forget one. Oh my God. What is all over this pump? Thing's a little dirty. All right, so what we gotta do to this, we gotta swap in this pump because this pump is trash and that might even be a stock pump. No, it's not. It's just garbage. I mean, look at it. It's like freaking, the pump's corroding. We're gonna be replacing that. Oh, look at this wiring. What the hell, man? Dude, this is, I swear, every time I buy someone's project car, I'm just astonished by some of the things they do. You know, I'm not trying to be the guy who's like, I know everything they don't know, but like, come on, man. So anyway, let's strip this thing down. We need to cut these and get our compression fittings on. So these will adapt from the typical dealio there to our dash 6 to run up to our tank. So let's get to it. All right, we got the old junky pump out. Man, this is some terrible wiring. It did not leave us a lot to work with on the stock connector, but just need to remember that this was ground. Yeah, okay, so we'll tie the ground down here so we don't forget. Okay, so that's ground. So now we need to cut these off. We need to cut this end off so it'll be just round. Just gonna try to use the bandsaw. Should work. It's a little tricky with stuff like this. Speed down a little. All right, well, let's hope I got those on right and got them sealed up good. Now I just need to throw our pump back in. All right, let's get this thing in. Ta-da! Got our new pump in. Fuel sock, wiring done. Got it all nice and heat shrunk and cleaned up, so ready to reinstall. All right, before I tighten this down, I'm gonna start making these lines, because to get it on, it'll probably be easier to do that, put the line on and then push it back into place. So the next step will be these lines in and out of the surge tank here. So we need to figure out which of these are which ones are feed and which ones are return. Oh, I should know this. Let me just look at it. Okay, so this back one's our return. The angled one is our feed. Okay, so I've got all my fittings laid out. We've got our 90s, our 45s, and then our straights, and then we've got our 8 stuff. It's gonna be just our feed line. So we don't need that many for it. You know, we only need a few, or really like 2. But for the return and the feed and return from the stock tank, it's all 6. So I wanna go through and kind of put the fittings on everywhere I'm gonna need them, and then make sure that I don't use, like, let's say I use 5 90s when I could have used a couple 45s and I'm out of 90. So I want to try to like map it out now so I don't run out of one type of fitting. So let's give it a shot. Oh yeah, because we also got to go into the filter, which I got put together here. So I need to figure out where I'm going to mount this. I'm going to put this before the surge tank. So basically fuel will come out, go through the filter, up into the surge tank, and then return back. One of these will be the return from the rails, and this will be the feed to the rails. So anyway, I'm gonna start throwing fittings on and mapping it out. All right, well, I miscalculated just how many 90s I would need. I ordered mostly 90s and then a bunch of others, you know, and it's like almost pretty much all 90s that I'm gonna need to make this work. All right, we got our line in. I need to cut right here to get this to bolt up because it's a little bit off the fittings hitting the sheet metal. So I'm going to try to use 10 snips because a grinder and an open fuel tank's probably not the best. I'm normally not that cautious with that kind of stuff, but this is one of those situations, probably not a good call. So yeah, we're going to have to try to cut that, and then we're going to have to cut this lid. I want to try to do it cleanly. I'm going to route my feed and return from the rails through here too. So I think I might cut it just like that. Because it's going to be hard to like drill holes and it'd be like super annoying to take off. You'd have to undo the fuel line, so I don't really want to do that. So I'll probably just chop it like that. Anyway, getting ahead of myself. Let's try to cut this with 10 snips. What are your predictions? Will this work or will it not work? I think it's going to be tough because of this lip. I don't know that we're going to be able to do it. Here, let me mark this. Oh, I left my marker inside. Obviously, I'm going to add another hose clamp or come up with a better mounting system for the fuel filter. It's just for mock-up reasons. It's right there. Oh, hell yeah. Not even struggling a bit. Bend that up and cut the rest of it. Bolt that down now. Okay, I think now I'm going to make my return line from the surge tank back to the tank, because I don't have another 90-degree fitting to make the rest of my feed line. Yeah, we're going to work on that now. We'll make this guy. Alright, time to make some lines. So I like to start with the line full length just so I can route it exactly where it needs to go and I don't mess it up and cut it too short or something. So basically the first step is you slide the collar over and then you thread the fitting into the collar and it threads into the rubber and locks in. So then I run it to where it needs to go. I put a piece of tape over it. That way I know it is exact. It's not going to be off. Then you have to cut it. I cut it with the bandsaw. I used to cut it with a grinder. Bandsaw seems to work better. Use a little bit of lube, put the next collar on, put the next fitting on, tighten it down, and then we can throw it back in. All right, got our return line in, looking spiffy. Ah, these lines and fittings are just so nice. They're so good. We need to make our feed from our filter into our tank, and then we need another 90 to do our return to our tank. We have plenty of 8AN stuff, which is our feed. So I'm gonna go ahead and make the feed and like get rid of the stock lines, like pull those out, make and route the feed up. I'm not gonna be able to finalize it because we don't have the engine in the car and we're gonna need to know, exactly where the fitting needs to go on the rail and all of that stuff, but we can at least route it and route the return line, and then we'll just have to add fittings. But before that, I wanna go ahead and cut this plate up and get it back on. So I'm gonna try to mark out where I need to cut as minimal as possible, and then get it back on. Oh, it's gonna be a tricky one, but we'll figure it out. So I'm using the bandsaw to cut this. I love using the bandsaw. To me, it works a lot better than a grinder. The grinder's kind of sketchy and it leaves like roughness and it's hard to go around corners. The bandsaw seems to leave a much cleaner cut, but I couldn't get into the middle of it. So what I had to do was cut the middle of it with a grinder to get that out, use a little bit of prying, get it out, and then get it all cleaned up and ready to go back in. Alright, well that's done. Easy enough. Before I start making the feed line, let's get under there and rip all the stock crap out. So now we're just yanking the stock lines out. We got to get them out of the little bracket hold-up clips that keep them in place. And then they go over the rear axle here, and there's some more clips that we have to unbolt. And then I was trying to pull them out as one unit, but they're never going back in, so I just decided, screw it, I'll just cut them in half, basically. Pull the front part out, pull the back part out, and then we're good. We don't have to worry about it. So now I'm just taking the little plastic clips out of the little hangers, if you want to call them that. All right, I got the stock lines out. It's actually pretty easy. Got them all down there. So, one thing that's really cool, on the Miata, it was hard to route. I had to use P-clamps and stuff, whereas these have these brackets. I pop the plastic clips out and we'll be able to run the lines on top of this and then kind of like bend them up as part of the way that we'll hold the line up against the frame rail all the way down. So yeah, we got them all the way out. You can see our adapter lines up there. So easy peasy. Now we can start running our new lines. I decided to stay on this side because that's where the factory outlet is. Like, see how close the frame rail is here? And you can see where they had to bash in for the header. On this side, it's like right there. Whereas on this side, they bashed in here because there's more room to the frame rail for the fuel lines. So I think that definitely makes the most sense. And we can easily clamp to the frame rail here and then go up. And then my plan is to go into the rail it'll loop and then out, and then put the regulator like right there, and then come down with the return. So anyway, I guess we're gonna get to it. All right, more line making. So same as last time, it's a little bit easier the bigger the fittings get. So these are 8 AN, the other ones are 6 AN. So they're just a little bit easier to make, but they're all pretty easy. Look at that, man. I don't know what it is about making AN lines, but when you're making them and they're coming together, man, they just, oh, I love it so much. It just looks so flashy. Like I said, I just feel terrible putting it in this piece of junk. But I mean, hey, at least it's gonna run good. All right, let's route this thing. Now we just need to route the line. So we're just kind of running it through, trying to figure out the best path, the path of least resistance and with the least possibility of things burning it, because that is not what we want. So we get it all clamped up here, get the brake line out of the way, and get everything kind of in place. All righty, well, routing was incredibly easy. There was a threaded hole here, and I finally bought some like nice size-specific P-clamps from Lowe's, just because I knew I'd be doing this at some point. And so the hole's big enough for an actual bolt, so instead of just a self-tapper. So anyway, just bolted that in right there. We'll do something just up towards the top to make sure it stays over all the way up, but it's just gonna go up from here to the fuel rail and then all the way down. I didn't bend these all the way up because I don't wanna mess them up, you know, like fatigue them, bending them up and down a bunch. But basically it'll sit on top of that. The return line will sit right next to it, and then they'll run up here. I gotta come up with, you know, like a P-clamp here, keep it off from next to the diff, just push it further over and up into the hatch. So freaking cake, man. So much easier than the Miata. The Miata was such a challenge. It was so hard for me to route those lines properly and keep them as close to away from heat as possible, and this was like a piece of cake. Obviously, you know, we won't know how close they are until we get the headers in there, but still freaking very, very easy, very easy. So, it's nighttime. Probably gonna call it a night, pick this back up in the morning, and we will knock out the fuel rails and the injectors. Exciting stuff. So our last order of business for the day is to get our fuel rails and injectors on. So we got everything here. It's kind of cool. They include this 8th MPT Schrader valve. So if you wanted to test for fuel pressure, if you weren't using aftermarket fuel pressure regulator, you'd be able to check for fuel pressure, bleed it off if you're going to pull the rails off, all that good stuff. So really cool that's included. Yeah, so let's get these on. I'm going to save these just because I might end up putting them back on the car and taking my whole fuel system off if I ever decide to get rid of the car. So I don't want to throw them away or get rid of them, because that way I can put the fuel system back to the way it is, which isn't a very good fuel system, but it'll run the car, I think. I don't know, these injectors are, seems like there's a sticking or leaky injector in here, so I mean I might have to replace those, but regardless, we're gonna save them. Moral of the story. Well, of course, this is an LS2 intake manifold, which I should have realized that. I was a little worried about it, but I was like, nah, it had LS1 injectors in it. I'm sure it came off an LS1, so these rails are not gonna work. I should be able to use these injectors in the other rails though. That's a freaking bummer though. I'm gonna have to try to get an LS1 or LS6 intake for this thing. I really wanna use these. Worst case, I'll get one for the Miata and run them on it, because the LS2 intakes are like one of the worst ones. So I'll get an LS6 intake for the Miata, and then I can run those on it. I want to make use of them, and I'd rather have them on that car anyway. It is what it is. We will persevere. We will. So they include a pack of grease with their injectors, which is pretty cool, because you obviously need to grease the O-rings or you'll tear them. So it's nice that they include that. I was going to use oil, but it's probably better. Why did I just do that? Shouldn't be dropping them like that. All right, we got the D-Works injectors and our old rails. I was going to use this crossover tube, but if I end up running those rails on something, I guess I can make another one of these. I'm going to use this. I'm going to use this on these rails, because this is like the worst part about these rails. This crossover tube is so jank. So anyway, we're going to get it on, and then we'll swap that stuff over. Well, we're gonna have to trim this guy down some. They make them long because some people go under the intake manifold with them, but I like to go above, just it's easier. Plus, I think the spacing might be different on here compared to an LS1 intake. So anyway, we'll have to shorten that up, but we're not gonna worry about that right now. All right, new injectors are in. So we're good to go there. And that's pretty much like the last thing we can do, really. It really is. So next step is gonna be getting the engine and trans and diff and axles in the car, final routing the fuel lines, mounting our regulator and all of that stuff. So I can't really do any of that until the engine's in the car because I don't know exactly where it needs to go. And I tried to do that with the Miata and mount some stuff before I put the engine in for the final time, and it didn't work out. So it's easier to just wait. So we're gonna wait, but we got the fuel system 90% done, 80% done. So I'm hyped about that. Clutch should be here in a day or two. So we'll be able to jump back on this. But tomorrow, special surprise for the Miata, we got some new wheels and they are a baller. They are my dream wheels. So we're gonna get that thing in, fix it, put the new wheels on it, fix the Subaru power steering line, and then hopefully the RX7 clutch will be in and we'll get that thing done and running and driving in the next few days. So I'll see you guys then. Thanks for watching, thanks for subscribing, goodbye.